Brother David Rohr and his wife Kim, missionaries in Latvia. That's between Estonia and Lithuania. Is that right? I looked on the map to make sure. But all you wanted to know about Latvia, you're going to find out today. But I'm going to go ahead and ask Brother David to come ahead and take charge of the service. And I think Kim also has a ministry update. So thankful that y'all could come be with us tonight. God bless you.
We are missionaries in Daugavpils, Latvia. So good evening.
Labvakar.
Dobre Vitter. We'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for your monthly support, because without you, our work would be very difficult to do, because we need support to be able to go to the country, because we cannot work in these countries that we're in, to be able to minister to the people there. And we just want to express our gratitude towards the church here for your monthly support. As of July 2024, we have been in Latvia for 3 years. When we return, we will be applying for our 4th-year visa. We are sent out by St. Helens Missionary Baptist Church in St. Helens, Oregon, or Haven, now that they changed their name to Haven Missionary Baptist Church in St. Helens, Oregon.
So where's Latvia? Like he said, it's between Estonia and Lithuania. Our city is also really close to the Belarusian border. We're about 50 miles from the Russian border. The city of Daugavpils is really close to those 3 countries right there down in the south.
Latvia has a history of being oppressed by different countries such as Russia, Germany, Sweden, and Switzerland. Our region has seen many of these occupations over the years.
So Latvia has a unique cultural and history. It is embedded in Latvian folklore, and it is experienced most often during the summer solstice or the Jāņi holiday celebrations. And this is just a video here of the cultural dance festivals that we had went to when we were there.
Working? Okay. All right. Well, you can go to the next slide then. So here's a Latvian volunteers during our basketball camp singing the Latvian traditional mill song. I wish it would play because it's kind of a catchy little tune, but the people that came over from America wanted to hear this traditional song, so they decided to get up and perform it for them. So understanding Latvians requires time and patience due to their historical experience, which shapes their approach in building relationships. The Latvian people can be very skeptical of strangers, especially us, that people they do not know. But once a friend, always a friend for life.
So due to their history of being suppressed by other nations, the Latvians take a long time to establish those relations. About 6 or 7 years it takes us. But we are still working continually in the community, building those relationships with the families that live in Daugavpils.
We build trust by continuing to live in the city of Daugavpils and being part of the community. And we feel by staying in the community and living there that we can demonstrate genuine love and care. And this approach enables us to be able to reach out with the gospel. You can learn a language in 30 days, as this advertisement from Facebook says. That's not realistic. We've been studying Latvian for about a year and Russian for 2 years, and I still have a hard time with it. But there are as you can see by the graph also, there's also very many other languages that are spoken in Daugavpils, and the 2 main ones is Latvian and Russian.
So when we arrived in Latvia, we studied Russian for 2 years, and now we are studying the Latvian language through our Russian teachers. So what we're doing is we're getting a little bit of both. We're learning the Russian, but Latvian also. So we'll be able to keep up with both, although we're sometimes very tired by the end of the lessons. So as you can see, they're very different. The one on the left is Latvian, so it says Splaki, Koktev Klayas.
The other one is Russian, Privyet, which is hi, Dobre Utra, which is good morning, and Kokdela, how are you? Learning both languages is crucial for our ministry there because a lot of the older generation only speaks Russian, but the younger generation speaks both Latvian and English. And through this will be able for us to be able to communicate with the people there. The government is also pushing the Latvian learning. And examples of this is the Russian population there now has to take a Latvian language test in order to stay in the country. And the public school and the teachers in the public schools now have to teach only in Latvian. And this all came about because of the Ukrainian war. To reach people with the gospel there, we feel we have to be all things to all people. As Paul said in 1 Corinthians 9:19 through 23, we aim to be all things to all people to save some.
So each week we meet with the English kids. The ages range from about 8 to 14, where we practice conversational English words, reading book, and playing games. The great thing is that I have some teenagers that come and they're able to translate, so we also are getting Latvian and both Russian in that. This club helps build relationships with the community, with the children, and with the families. And this is another way that we are reaching out to our community.
We try to make English Club fun by doing various activities. We incorporate storytelling where we can incorporate Bible studies. We teach children about the holidays of America, like Thanksgiving and how to be thankful to God. And we talk about Christmas and why Christ came and why he was born.
So our next ministry, we've been working with the orphanage that's just outside the city of Daugavpils. We have been here to help with their English skills, build relationships, mentor them, and demonstrate Christ's love. We will continue to work with these children as they age out by supporting them to come to their independence.
We have tried several formats for Bible study with limited success, but when we return, we will try a new time and focus on Bible doctrines and teaching about the local church and salvation and other important topics. We want to do some leadership training where we've been invited to teach discipleship and doctrine at the Christ Center Baptist Church. Our future plans with this coordination and this partnership includes marriage seminar, teach Bible doctrines, leadership training, and one-on-one discipleship.
So the other thing that we do is we're part of the Adult English Club that's held at the library at the U.S. Embassy Library during the school year, but during the summer months, we hold it at our church office building. And here we read news articles, we play games, go to concerts, go to barbecues, we have Bible study, and some of these people also come to our church and Bible studies, so it's a great outreach.
So the next one, we just got done with basketball outreach. It was the first of many firsts here, but basketball is very popular in Daugavpils, especially in Latvia. We hosted our first basketball camp with 30 Americans coming over from Flatwoods Baptist Church in Mountain View, Arkansas. This outreach was a way to present the gospel to children who participated in this camp.
So like David said, it was a first of first. It was a first for us to ever host an event. It was a first from the Americans that came to ever go on a foreign field. It was a first for our nurse. It was the first time that our translator had ever worked with us. It was the first time for our camp host to ever host an event, especially one of this size. But the great thing is Jesus is in all these firsts. And everybody said they would come back and do it again, and that I deem as a success.
And some of the Latvian believers that we were working with really didn't know how all of this was going to work. The big question is, how does basketball and Jesus work? But it worked. So they were very impressed with that.
So the young people heard the gospel through the object lessons and personal testimonies. There were about 38 children in attendance, and 6 accepted Christ by the end of the week. And we plan to make this an annual event each year.
As we did this event, Not only did we see people, 6 people come to Christ, but also we saw growth in the American team that came over. But more importantly, we saw growth in the Latvian Christians that we associated with. And not only that, it was a chance for us to have some personal growth also. We are in the community of Daugavpils to share the gospel, distribute tracts with the hope of making disciples of Jesus Christ. Our mission is for people to know God, to grow in God, and to go for God. Our desire is to have grounded people to plant an indigenous church with. We believe in the power of prayer, so we do once a week, we go out to the city and we pray walk the city. We believe that through this, that God's going to answer our prayers and people are going to come to Christ. We ask God to open their hearts for salvation, that he would give us an opportunity to go and to be able to witness to them. And as Colossians 4:3 says, withal, praying also with us that God would open unto a door of utterance to speak the mysteries of Christ, which I am also in bonds.
So some people still hold beliefs from the communist era, and they deem us as a cult. For an example, one of our young kids that come to our English club wanted to invite her friends from school to attend the English club, and her parents refused because they thought we were a cult. But we are working to change these beliefs through love, compassion, and community service.
So what's our goals in the next 5 years? Our goals in the next 5 years is discipling individuals to develop a strong following of Jesus to plant an indigenous church with. With this church that's planted, we plan on using this as a hub church to plant many other churches through our region, which is called Legali, the other places in Latvia and the world.
We are also working to pass our Latvian language exam, and this will give us a 5-year visa once that test is passed.
And we want to train leadership through Bible classes, partnership with Bible institutes in Kaunas, Lithuania.
So here are some prayer requests. Our health and safety, especially as we travel throughout the United States. Improving our language communication so that we will be able to share the gospel both in the Latvian and the Russian language.
The Latvians' hearts would be open to receive the gospel because their hearts are hardened. They have religion, but they don't have Jesus Christ. Passing the Latvian language test so we can get that 5-year visa so we can stay without having to worry about the visa situation all the time. Wisdom in teaching Bible doctrine, because a lot of things that we're going to be teaching them in Bible doctrine they have never heard.
God's protection for our kids here and our grandchildren that live in the United States. Discipleship and leadership training.
For an indigenous church plant to be planted in Daugavpils that's winning people and their nation to Christ. We appreciate your partnership in fulfilling the Great Commission. It is truly an honor for us to be part of your mission to reach the world, and we are praying for you. God, this is God's promise to us, Galatians 6:9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. And that is our goal, is to stay there and continue to work with them. Anybody have any questions about the culture? Yes. That's okay.
We get that one a lot from over there, too.
You get that one. You
Why
want to come
here?
Why here? I worked a lot of years in Russia as a missionary helper. I have a friend that's still a missionary there. He's an American. He's married to a Russian. And I knew God was calling me for full time, but I was really just kind of dragging my feet, and because I didn't want to go unless, God said, okay, Kim, you need to go with him because having your wife there is very important. So I just kind of let God take care of that and prayed. And so one day she was doing a Bible study, and she come home one night and said, I feel called to the mission field. I said, oh, okay. I already been called, so I was like, all right, so I kind of put God to the test, and so we started praying, okay, yeah, we know that we're called full-time, so where do you want us to go? So in 2016, we went to Russia. God closed the door. But while we were in St. Petersburg, we were thinking about the Baltic states. I never heard of Latvia before, to be honest with you. it's like, what's this country? So I started doing research. Okay, where there are people that don't have very many missionaries, and where are people that are Russian speaking and have the Russian culture, because I understood that a little bit better than a lot of other cultures working in Russia. So God started turning our heart towards Latvia, and I started doing research, and I didn't see any missionaries hardly there at all of any kind. So God started burdening our hearts about it, and we took a month to pray about it, and after the month, we said, yeah, this is definitely where God wants us to be. So you want to tell the honest story.
Wow. So about 2 weeks after we decided Latvia was that, we get a knock on our door. And at the time we were living in Montana, which is it was a really small community. Not very many people lived there. And a young man was selling books. And I asked him where he was from due to, I knew he had an accent, and he was from Latvia. I was so excited. So I invited him in my house. I told him I had already all these maps out because I'm a map person. I wanted to know what the country was about. I was looking at the language apps. And the great thing is we still met up with Giannis our trip over that year. And when we had also moved there, he invited us up to his parents' house for Christmas. So we're still in contact with Giannis. So.
And I cannot be more blessed than being called and being put in the city that I'm in. We really love it. We really love the people. We enjoy every aspect of our ministry. God is good. I mean, the Latvian people are slow to respond to the gospel, but we know that if we keep working and keep praying, and God keeps working on the hearts, people are going to be saved. We're going to see people come to the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's going to be a very exciting harvest, because once you get the Latvian people into something and they truly, firmly believe it, they will be there for life. They're very dedicated people, and they're very gracious people. They just take a long time to get to know, that's all, because they're not very trusting. We've had some struggles with that, but I think we're finally hitting the point to where they think now that we're definitely going to be staying, and that we truly do love them and we don't want anything from them. We're there to help them. And some of the things that we've had to overcome, such as, it's taken us 3 years to find this young lady that would translate for me at the basketball camp. So that's why some of the work has been kind of slow because of that. But, they have religion, but they just don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and that's what they need. And, and a lot of the religions there teach salvation by works. And they think if I'm a good person and I do this, this, and this, and this, then, I'm going to be okay. And it doesn't work that way according to the Bible. So, any other questions? Yes, sir. Yes, yes. The Russian Bible is different. The book layout sometimes is different, but the same books are in the Bible. The Russians, there's a couple chapters in Psalms or divisions in Psalms that are different, and Latvian is pretty close to what.
Yeah, it follows pretty close. Yeah.
Pretty close to the English Bible, so, and it's got a really good translation now of the Latvian Bible. So I can read it, but I don't understand a lot of it. So yes, sir. Oh yeah.
Mainly, what it did was it's pushing that speaking Russian out, and now in the schools, they're only taught in Latvian. And if a teacher is caught speaking in the Russian language as she tries to teach you, they can be fined, even to the point where I have seen the names in a newspaper of the teachers that were fined. So we talk to our Latvian teacher all the time. We're like, well, so how hard is the test? And she goes, for English Americans, you will have no problem now, but if you were more Russians and they're going to be stricter on you. So that is what we've seen since we have been there, because we were there before the war, is that push to get Russian out.
And they used to have a lot of different Soviet monuments there, and then one day they all disappeared. So, and it was something that they were planning, but now they're trying to strip all of that away because they don't want anything to do with Russia, and they're very pro-Ukrainian. So, yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we feel safe.
Yeah. When the war started, we were getting emails from home saying, you guys need to come back. And I'd write them back, the Ukraine is 2,000 miles away. You know? So it's like, oh, yeah, we're not that close. But we did have some refugees from the Ukraine, and we got to minister to them for a little while before they went back home. So, I mean, those things have been good, but the war has just really pushed the Latvian nationalism to the forefront. And just because you're born in Latvia doesn't mean you're a citizen. We know people that have alien passports that were born and raised in Latvia because it doesn't guarantee you citizenship if you're born in the country like it does here. So that was really interesting to hear that. So a lot of some of the Russian population, they were pushing to take the language test, and they were making 65, 70-year-olds, 75-year-olds take the
It cuts
Latvian
off at
test.
75.
Yeah, take the Latvian
So.
test, but some people rethought that, and now it's, you know, if you have certain things, you can get out of taking the test. And you used to see a lot more Russian in our city, but you don't,
Yeah, not at
on the
all.
signs, but you don't see that anymore either, so.
Yeah, Daugavpils used to be, in the communist area, it used to be about 150,000. Now, because that's left and all the factories closed, I'd say it's about 70,000 that live in, but we don't have a lot of factories, we don't have a lot of jobs, so like I was telling the pastor's wife earlier, we get a lot of families that want to raise their kids there because it is safe. Kids can go on the bus, they can go to tram, they can walk by themselves to school. There's just a really safe city compared to Riga being the bigger city. So, yeah, it's a good place to raise families, but when they turn 18, they're going to go to Riga to go to university. They got the better universities, or they're going to go to Germany. A lot of them go to Germany or then London to live because they can. Huh? Yeah, you'll get way better pay. If you compared the pay of what somebody would earn in Daugavpils, I would say maybe $1,000 a month. When you go to Germany, it's going to be like $2,000. Maybe London would be a little bit more, depending obviously what field you're in. So, but the funny thing is we end up talking to a lot of people that have been in London and have come back to raise their family in Daugavpils because it's a really, really safe, good area to raise your kids. So it's a big ministry opportunity, and that's why the English clubs, the basketball camp works so well.
And English is one of those languages that everybody wants to learn.
American English. They don't want to learn the British English.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they are very tall. Yeah, like way taller than I am. I used to be considered tall. These girls are way like over 6 foot.
Yeah. They even dwarf me
And
a little
yeah,
bit.
the daylight in the summertime, like we'll get complete darkness around 11:30 and our sun will rise up about 3:30. But in December, the sun goes down at 3:30 and it doesn't rise up till like 8:30. So it gets really dark.
Yeah, one evening I got up just before we came back here, and the cat likes to go outside, so I let the cat out and went back upstairs and rolled over and looked at the time, and it was 12 o'clock, and it was still daylight out there, 12 o'clock at night. And I go, okay, well, cat, have fun tonight, so. And the sun comes up usually, yeah, it comes up pretty early, so.
Something like in the store, some things are cheaper. Some things are like pharmacy-wise, that's going to be about the same price here. Rent is cheaper. That's one of the benefits that we have is rent is cheaper. But the bad thing for us is when our U.S. money transfers over to the euro is always higher than the American dollar. So we lose about $1,000 when we transfer our money across. So it's nice to have rent be cheaper.
Yeah.
That helps balance it out.
So on those things, that's nice, but
Yeah.
I mean, the euro.
The gas is outrageous.
Gas is outrageous.
It's like $1.80 a liter.
Yeah, which is about $6 a gallon
But
or more, so.
We live really close to town, like 10 minutes, so we don't use a lot of gas.
Yes. Yeah, all of it, yeah. The two main churches in our town, the bigger ones, is the Russian Orthodox and then also the Catholic Church. And by the population, there's a lot of people that came from Poland, so they're mostly Catholic, and then the Russian population are mostly Russian Orthodox. We do have
The state religion is Lutheran, though.
is Lutheran, so we have a big
Yeah,
Lutheran church there.
Most of the time it's Catholic, but
And it's we do have the Jehovah's Witnesses there and the Mormons. They'll have some American Mormon missionaries that will come through. They'll stay like 3 or 4 months at a time. So we have those there too that are constantly trying to win people. So, and it's very weird. It's a weird dynamic anyway. The city itself and the region itself in Latvia is a weird dynamic. We call it, we're the stepchild of Latvia, basically, so.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. They find it fascinating.
Yeah, we discuss sometimes
Yeah.
when we go to the adult English club, somebody else will be leading it, and they'll bring up stuff that is they always bring up new. I don't want to hear the news here as much. I'd rather discuss something else, but they'll bring up the politics here sometimes, and sometimes they'll ask us about certain things that they've seen on Facebook or something, but.
How does our government work and things like
Yeah.
that. So, I mean, it's interesting, yeah.
I don't know. I try to keep out of politics personally.
I just say it's just chaos. So
Yeah.
and I don't know how they get things done, but anyway, so that's kind of what I tell them. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, actually, we could have gotten our Latvian citizenship if we had, $250,000 and we would have bought euros, and we would have bought property over there. We would have gotten. There's a way to get instant immigration if you could have done it. So.
And we are taking donations.
But the only thing we did find out, because I know some Americans over there that have bought property, you can't buy forests proper, anything with a forest in there. So, because her house had a little bit of both, and so she adopted her son there, and he had to buy this part of the land, and she bought the house. So.
Yes. We're going to establish church in the future. We're working with one that invited us in to teach Bible doctrine and stuff. So it gives us an opportunity to be able to share biblical truth with them, such as stuff that we believe as missionary Baptists and Bible-believing Christians, and I think that they're open to that, and as long as they're open to that, then that gives us an opportunity to be able to teach them. So far, they've been really open to a lot of what I've taught them and preached to them and things like that. So it's been really good. So way back when they never believed in eternal security, but now they're starting to come around to that. So things like that. They're very confused about the local church. That really needs to be things need to be taught about the local church that they don't understand, and that's one of the blessings that we get to do. We get to set the curriculum. We get to talk about church membership, what that means, what the local church is, and how missions is done. So we get to set a lot of those things for them. So, and we're hoping. Huh? Yeah, it's an indigenous church. They're from there. They wanted. What happened was that the Latvians wanted a Latvian speaking church, and there was another Baptist church in town that was only Russian speaking. So they decided that they were wanting to do a Latvian church. So they speak more Latvian and things like that, and it helps.
It's really both. We
Yeah.
sing in Latvian, which is great because we were already practicing that, but the pastor will speak in Russian, so you're always getting both languages when we're there.
And it's been a help for our language study, but also it's really been a help because we were able to talk about some of those Bible things that, they're lacking in and say, what do you believe about this? And we were asked about closed communion because we don't take communion there, and they asked about it, and I explained it to them, and they just said, makes a lot of sense to me. so I mean, that was, one of those deals. But our goal is to establish an indigenous church. We're working on that also. So, and when we go back, that's going to be our main focus, is building a church and starting from the ground up with indoctrinating them in the Bible principles, and then have that firm foundation to start a church with. So, any other questions? I was discipling a young man when I first got there for about 2 years, but what happens, like anything else, he started at the university, and once they go to the university, it's very hard to get a hold of them because they're very, very busy. I mean, they study a lot. They were telling us how much homework and things they have.
Because we thought we were going to go in immigration once upon a time that way. The homework that they make you read, I was like, oof.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still working on that, but hopefully through the basketball outreach and working with, starting some more ministries, we're thinking about going back and starting a teenage English club. Yeah. And maybe through that we can start, discipling a lot younger people too. And that's kind of what the goal is. And then eventually, have that foundation to build an indigenous church. We go back 1st of October. We've been back.
First of, like the end of July.
End of July. So
not very long.
Not very long. So, I mean, we're recovered from the road trip, but I still kind of walk in the store and go, how many types of cereal do we need here? Because we don't have that over there. But we have to renew it year to year at this point. But once we pass the test, then it's an every 5-year process. And then after a couple of the 5-year process, then we can get permanent residency, and that's what we want to do. So with the permanent residency, it gives us a lot more, I guess, consistency that they know we're going to be there then. So, because part of our area and part of what's gone on and the lack of trust is that Americans have come in there thinking they were going to build churches, and within a few years they're gone, and it's like, why even invest in these guys, because they're going to be gone in a few years. So that's a lot of things that you really have to establish, and it just takes time. I mean, I wish that I could tell you guys a glaring report that I went to Latvia, had a big campaign, thousands of people got saved, we had 50 churches started, but it doesn't work that way there. It's just very, you have to really get to know them and befriend them and really be part of their personal lives, and then they open up a little bit here and there, and then eventually you find out like they have kids and family after knowing them for, a year and a half, 2 years. So, I mean, and those are realistic statements, because that's, we've talked about that after meeting some people, and it's like, did you know that such and such had kids in England? No, I didn't. Me either. So until tonight. So those are the things that, we have to, and that's why the establishment of being there long term is really important.
And the great thing to hear too is when we come back, they knew we were coming. "Are you coming back?" And then the one one of my friends, she's like, "Are we still having Thanksgiving this year?" I'm like, "Yes." We've done it every year that we've been. Oh, good.
Yeah, that was kind of, I have to tell you that story when after church, but yeah, it's kind of funny to watch them eat turkey. But anyway, yeah. Any other questions? I just like to, yeah. Do what? I can't. Okay, we can do that. So, any other questions? I just want to give you a quick challenge from God's Word before we go. And like I said, we appreciate being here this evening. It's been a pleasure. You guys have been supporting us for a while, and we really appreciate that. And we cannot say enough of how much that we appreciate having churches like you behind us and being part of our team, and we being part of your team to reach the world for Christ. I think it's very important to have churches, the way that we do mission work in our churches and in our association, having a lot of different churches being part of your ministry, I think is a great idea, because there's a lot of diversity in that. But also, I think you get known more, and people start reading your prayer letters, and they pray for you. And one of the things that you guys can do the most for us, and I'm saying this with my open heart, is the fact that we need your prayer, because it can be very difficult to work in a foreign field, especially when you're trying to learn the language. You have language mistakes that sometimes you don't understand each other. You have frustrations there. You're trying to present the gospel in a clear manner so they understand it, but yet they do not. Part of what's really hard sometimes when I get up and teach, I have to teach through interpreters, and that's very difficult, because with my mind, and my mind's always racing 90 miles a minute, and you have, these guys trying to, listen to it in English, translating it into Latvian, and teaching it at the same time, and it's very difficult for them, and there's a lot of frustration there, and sometimes I get going, and I forget that I have an interpreter, and then when I come back to America, it's the reverse effect. I start talking, then I'll stop, and oh yeah, I don't have an interpreter. But it's just really the thing that every missionary needs, and is your prayers. Read our reports. Look at the people that we're working with. Pray for them, because we know that prayer is what's going to get the job done over there. It's not in my ability. I don't have very much ability, folks. I'm being honest with you. But I serve a God that has all ability and is all powerful, and he can work through me. But he can work through us also through us praying for these people, praying for our neighbors, praying for our nation, praying for the Latvian people. I think one of the things that we're missing today in churches is that we're so focused on trying to reach the world that sometimes we forget that we have a neighbor across the street that needs to be reached for Christ. And sometimes we just look at that and we don't think about that person is just as important as somebody across the world. Or that American is just as important as that African on the other side of the world that needs to hear the gospel. Everybody needs to hear the gospel. Everybody needs to have the opportunity to hear, to respond to the gospel message. I believe that God sends missionaries because he wants everybody to hear the gospel. One of the things that I was talking to your pastor about today, and I think it's great, is that you guys do Faith Promise. I was introduced to Faith Promise in 1996. And at that time, when the pastor was preaching on Faith Promise missions, I thought that he was totally out of his mind. What, you want me to give more than my tithe to missions? Doesn't my tithe already go to missions? Don't that 10% of the total church offering go to missions? But I learned something through that as I started to give and started opening my heart up to God. Through that God started to grow my faith. And because of that, I am standing here today because I participated in Faith Promise Mission. And I'm saying that because the fact is that God was able to take me, mold me, and grow my faith during that time to when God called me to go to Latvia, that I knew that he had my back, and I knew that he was calling me, and I knew that by faith that that's where he wanted me to be. And the greatest thing about that is I am living the greatest adventure of my life. And I say that because I want you young people to listen to me. It took me until I was 50-something years old to decide, yeah, God is, I've been called a lot longer than that, but, I was dragging but it took me until I was 50 years old to say, okay, God, use me. Use me. Send me wherever you want to send me for me to reach out to people that need to hear the gospel. I have one regret in my life, and that is, why didn't I do that in my 20s? Because I'm living the greatest adventure that anybody can live because I am doing what God has called me to do. And he asks anybody that's called by God to do something, and even if the hardships and the life is difficult, they much rather be where they're at that particular time with all the hardships, because that's where God wants them, than making $1 million someplace else. And it's very important for us to understand that when God calls people, he calls them for a purpose. And that purpose is always to take the gospel around the world. All of us here are called to take the gospel around the world. All of us here are a witness one way or the other. All of us here can reach somebody for the Lord Jesus Christ. All we have to do is be willing. We don't have to be the greatest spokesman of all time. Look at Moses. He stutters more than probably I do. But the fact is that God used him to take a nation out of captivity and to form a new nation. And these things are very important because the fact is that God uses people just like you and me. He doesn't always use who we think is going to be the greatest preacher of all time. Usually, the ones that he's called, in my experience, are the ones that you would never expect. Because it's always somebody that's quiet and doesn't say much. And as a result, God seems to choose those people, or choose people like us, because the fact is that we have to rely on him, and it's him that gets the glory. And one thing that I want to do as a missionary at all points in my life is give our Lord Jesus Christ the glory for everything. And it's because of what he's done on the cross and saving me that I have the motivation and the love for other people to share the good news of Jesus Christ with them. And as I close tonight, I just want to read you the Great Commission, and I want you to think about this. Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 through 20. And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, All power is given unto me in heaven and earth. Go ye therefore, teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the world. Our mission as churches and as Christians is to propagate the gospel around the world, is to go reach people for Christ, establish churches, train people, and send them out so more churches and more people can hear the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. There are very many people still today who have not heard the gospel for the first time, and people that should break our hearts. The question is, what can we do about that? How can we get the gospel around the world? What can we do to show other people what Jesus has done for us? And it's just loving on people and telling them that this is why Jesus came. And if we can do that, not everybody's going to get saved. People are going to reject it. That is true. But there will be people out there that will hear the message. And we need to just be diligently preaching the gospel. Thank you.